Sup everyone, it is I, SPI, and welcome to a brand new podcast. This is called SPIcast, and basically what I'm going to be doing in this is I'm going to be talking about a topic, I guess giving some quick channel news at the beginning of it, kind of how I did in Spinjitzu, which is the other podcast that I did, but it was like me and my co-host Luke talking about Ninjago. So now we covered news about the show, and then we did like a main topic, and that's kind of what I'll be doing here. In Spinjitzu, we also had some other segments. One of them was where we stalked the Twitter account of one of the co-creators of Ninjago. Don't even ask. And the second one, the other segment that we got to, I brought on the funniest comments, and we laughed over those. And I think we've done a Q&A before. I don't know, but that's something that I want to do in this. So before I do an episode, I'm going to be posting on my Instagram story a question box, and you can basically submit your question, and I will talk about it in the main topic of an episode. Obviously, I'm not doing that for this one, but that's kind of something that I'll be doing from this moment on. One difference between this and Spinjitzu is that this is actually going to be much shorter, maybe 15 to 25 minutes. I would say maybe 20 minutes at average for each episode. And Spinjitzu was like 40, 42, 45. We even had one that went up to like 59 minutes. So it was on the longer side of things, which I think most podcasts are. I could be wrong on that, but at least the ones that I've listened to. And I guess one of the main reasons why I want this to be shorter is because I feel like that would be better, because it's just going to be me for most of it, which I want it to be because it's the SPI cast, so it's me talking about stuff in my life. I have other topic ideas. I'm just going to go through them, give you an overview of some other stuff I'm going to be doing on this. So one of the upcoming episodes, which might be the second one, so I think I'm going to do a Q&A for it, is like my spiritual journey from the moment when I got saved all the way to now, basically. I will have a college episode where I talk about life here at SBU. I'll probably try to get a guest on that episode, like one of my friends on that, but that's probably not going to happen for a while. And then after Mr. Narrator Does Stuff is over, I'm going to be talking about that series, and I might do the same thing for like a different series that I've done. Recommend stuff, like you have been challenged or how-to videos or something, not students of Spinjitzu, because I know I'm going to cover that in an episode, so you don't even have to recommend that because I know that's going to be an episode already. Yeah, I have a lot of plans for this series, but without further ado, I'm going to get into the news real quick. So speaking of Mr. Narrator Does Stuff and Students of Spinjitzu, both of those series will have season finales of their second seasons in December. So please stay tuned on those, because I think the finales for both are like really awesome. So I don't think you'll be disappointed. And Mr. Narrator Does Stuff episode 6 will be premiering this Saturday. So it's going to be back on Saturday. I know Students of Spinjitzu kind of had like back-to-back episodes, but Mr. Narrator Does Stuff is back, and I'm basically just going to be alternating between weekends for both those series. Another thing I want to mention is that I recently uploaded a video where I talked about the gospel, and it's a really great video, in my opinion. I do it in 100 words or less, which now that I think about it, I think I'm going to do something longer than that. I think that was a good method, but the fact that the rest of the video was longer than what I was talking about kind of bothers me a little bit now, but I think it turned out pretty good. I would really recommend watching it, and hopefully you can take something from it. And so I am going to be doing more content like that. I don't know how often or what exactly yet. I'm still kind of trying to come up with ideas and praying about it and seeing where that should go, but yeah, there will be more of that. Speaking of another thing that's coming, there's going to be a new series, but it's not a series. That's kind of just what I've been referring it as. But it's really more of a type of video, I think, than a series, because it's basically going to be me and my friends doing random stuff just around in life, and it's going to be super hilarious. Think You Have Been Challenged how-to videos, just like the laughs you get from that, but it's focused on that and like friends hanging out and having fun. That's essentially what it's going to be. I have a few ideas, but I think I want to leave it up to them we're going to be doing like a brainstorming kind of session for the first video like that, and I'm looking forward to it. I don't know when or how often this is going to come, but I'm pretty excited because this is going to be awesome. Like, this is going to be hilarious. It's going to be the type of thing where you look back upon it and you're like, oh man, remember when we did this? Remember that time I ate cat food? Yeah, it'd be kind of like that. And flipped scooters. And the last thing I want to cover is a new thing that I'm going to be doing every month. I wouldn't really call this a series. It's just kind of like an update thing. This is more for me, I would say, than for you guys, but it's also going to keep you informed about my progress. So they're going to be monthly writing updates because if you guys don't know already, I am writing a book. It relates to Ninja, but it's not, I don't want to say it's like Ninjago because it's more in like a realistic world. I don't want to give too much away. Eventually I will, and I'm hoping for a 2019 release. I don't know when because publishing is difficult, but basically where I am right now is like I finished it completely. It was like 300 pages in the summer of 2017, I believe. It was like right before my senior year. So yeah, that would be the summer of 2017. And then I was trying to get it published. I was like, yes, I'm going to get this published. And just like publishing costs like so much money. And so I don't know. I'm trying to either maybe get some contacts now or self-publish if I have to. There's a vacuum cleaner in the hallway. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that. I really hope that is not picked up in the recording. But yeah, I've been rewriting that book now because I've realized that my writing has improved with Students of Spinjitzu and Mr. Narrator Does Stuff Season 2. I'm like, yeah, I could improve this book now. So I'm kind of rewriting that. I think it's much better now. And so I'm just going to be doing an update every month. It'll be a quick thing. Speaking of quick things, I don't think this was quick. Like, maybe I should have gone faster with this news. Tell me down in the comments, was this news too short or was it too long? I think it was too long because my recording says 10 minutes and 37 seconds and I haven't even gotten to the topic. Oh, man. All right, let's get into the topic. So the main topic for this episode, for the very first episode, is going to be running. And for those of you who don't know, I'm big on running. I really like to just kind of like run around my neighborhood or go to the track. There's like an indoor track at my school, which I go to. And it's just something that I basically just consider to be fun that I like to do. And that's one of the main reasons why I do it is because I enjoy it. And I do push myself. It's not just like, oh, I'll run and then, oh, I'm tired, I'm going to give up. No, I do push myself. I'm kind of training for a marathon, and I hope I can do that this year. I was going to do it last year, but then it like became icy outside, and I was like, I don't think I should do this anymore. And then I finally got back to it, and I've done a half marathon recently, and I'm basically building myself back up to hopefully doing 26 miles. I don't think it'll be the race. I think it'll just be the distance, but I'm going to try to do that and make a video out of it. So that's happening, hopefully. I guess I'm just going to give my background with running now. So I started running after I started walking. No, I'm just kidding. Or did I? Did I like run into a wall? Hey, I can walk now. Oh! Just like runs into a wall. One of my earliest memories that I have running, obviously I like was a kid and like ran around with childhood friends outside or whatever, but I remember in elementary school, like a lot of the kids in my grade had races just during recess. They weren't anything official. It's just like, oh, I'm gonna race you or whatever. And I mean, I wasn't the most outgoing person back then, definitely not as much as I am now. So I wasn't one that would jump into a competition and say, yeah, I want to race all of you. Let's do it. But when I did race, because I did do it quite a few times, from what I can remember, I won, like most of them. I think I could just be saying that now, and like my memory has been altered by overconfidence or whatever, but I'm pretty sure I did really well. And it's actually what got me to become friends with like this one guy who introduced me to some other guys, and I'm going to get into that in a moment. Basically, that story is maybe this guy knew that I was beating people at running in the 4th grade, and so he challenged me to a race from like the other side of the playground fence, back to where we were, which is like at the opposite side of the playground. So one end of the playground to the other, let's do this. And I was like, yeah, let's go. And so we went. I beat him. And we became friends, and he introduced me to one of his friends and another one of his friends, aka Malik, and that's how I got to know Malik. So that was pretty cool. And then two of those guys moved away, so it was only Malik and me, and I moved away. I just thought of that. Malik is the remaining person out of our group. I thought it would be me, because Malik has talked about, I think, like, he said he was going to move before or something, but he never did, which was awesome. I was glad that, he's hung around for this long. And he got to be on videos, which was cool when I started SPI Studios. So running carried over, I remember, to middle school, where like we had physical education class, PE, and we ran around the track and whatever. And I was still kind of not very an outgoing person, so like I knew that I could run fast, and like I was in the front, but I made it so that I wasn't first. And I kind of like purposefully ran a little slower. So if I put in the effort, like I knew I could have been beating everyone else, but I wasn't. That sounds really overconfident. Okay, maybe there's like one person, one or two people, that, yeah, they're gonna win. Maybe there's just like that one guy, but I knew I could be up there with them, and I kind of like hung back. On the flip side of things, during my sophomore year of high school, we started doing like campus laps around the school, and I realized like I could still run, and so we were going whatever, we were just kind of going at a good pace, and then I kept going, and I passed a bunch of people, and like everybody behind me started walking. And then I was just one of the people in the front, and then so I realized, hey, I'm ahead, and I thought I was like the first person to make it back, but apparently I wasn't. There's like this one other guy. So eventually, as the year went on, I tried to improve, and I eventually got to the point where I was beating him, and so that was happening. But this wasn't like sports or whatever. Like I knew I wasn't the fastest person. I found it fun, but I'm going to explain kind of why I don't do it competitively. So yeah, let's get into that. So I was considering it competitively like junior or senior year, but junior year was what kind of messed me up. So we continued, doing campus laps and whatever in my PE class that year. But it became more for competition because I made some friends in that class, and we ran and we competed. But I think the competition might have gotten to me because that's what I was focused on, was getting there first. And then so it just kind of came to a point when I was like, I just want to run, like I don't want to compete anymore. So yeah, and that's kind of what I do now. My biggest challenger nowadays is myself, especially with the marathon, just doing marathon distance. I guess I'm just going to get into probably the best part of this episode. Is some of my craziest stories that I have had while running around my neighborhood. And, well, I haven't had much here, but back in my hometown. Let's start off with the best one. No, let's start off with the second best one. And we'll end with the best one. The second best one is it wasn't the first day of school, but it was the day before the first day of school for my senior year of high school, and I was like, okay, this is my last year. I At this point, like, I really got into running junior year, and I started going around the neighborhood the summer afterwards, which was like the summer of 2017, I believe. So that's when I was like big on running. I did like some long runs. I just went for hours on a bike trail or around like a park, and then went through a neighborhood and then came back to a park or a different park. And I just ran for a long time. But one of the runs that I really wanted to do was I wanted to run to my high school and back. And it was 5.5 miles to my high school. So on the day before the first day of my senior year, the freshmen were there, but not everyone else. I got up at like maybe 5:30. School starts at like 8:30, so I wasn't going to get there when there were a bunch of people. So I got up at 5:30, ran to my school. Like a lot of it was kind of like there's the highway and then there's like field next to it or whatever, and I was in the field. I wasn't on the road. I avoided the road. I was making sure cars were away from me. So I played that very safely. went on sidewalks when I could. Yeah, so I ran to my high school, and I did like a prayer thing for the year, which I think, like, now looking back on it, I like prayed that I could outreach to more people, and that really, like, that happened, which is really awesome. I thank God that that happened, because like one of the times that I invited my entire FCA class and one of my entire like classes and a bunch of people, I think it was like 100 in total that I invited to this one like Christmas party. Not many people showed up that I invited, but at least they know about the church. And then I basically hosted this one event, and you can see a video on my channel about where I'm like preaching at that event. I'll probably put it in the description. It's called "Is Jesus the Way to Heaven" or something. That was the message that I was giving to the youth group there. Yeah, it was a really great year. So I think the prayer really like went into the year, and that's really awesome looking back upon that. But so I ran to my high school and did the prayer, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna run back. So I ran back. There were more cars. It was like 6:30 or whatever, getting to be 7. Sup, this is Future SPI. I just wanted to point out that I didn't fully explain. It was 5.5 miles there and 5.5 miles back. So this was an 11-mile run. All right, I'm going to go back to my own time now. But I made it back. It was like 11 miles. And I was like, yes. And I tried to tell people about it, and they were like, you should not have done this. I was like, oh. I was trying to be safe. Okay. I think I did pretty good, but okay, maybe I'm an idiot. Tell me in the comments, was I an idiot for doing that, or was I a champion? Because I can see it both ways. Oh man, that's great. And then, all right, so some of my other stories before I get into the best one, which I'll end off this podcast with. What else has happened? I've ran around a cemetery a lot because it's been like my go-to place. I have ran with Jon and Mr. Cameraman before. I did a video. It was like vlog number 5 where I was running and jogging. It was called like jogging and talking. That's what it was. And I ran to other parts of my town. And I found this park that I didn't know existed. And I just talked about my channel or whatever there. Found a lopsided golf ball. But the point is, that park I found that I didn't know existed. I told Jon and Mr. Cameraman about it, and they were like, oh, we should go sometime, because Mr. Cameraman was wanting to do some running and stuff like that to train for, I think he was in soccer, I think is what he was getting into. So we have done some running before, like on the track or whatever, not too much running around the neighborhood. I would have liked to do more of that with other people. I kind of talked about it, but it never really happened. It was fun. It was fun for like the one time that I was like, when we actually went out and did it. So the longest run that I've had so far, which was just like a neighborhood run, is 18 miles. There was going to be this other one that I was trying to surpass it. It was on a bike trail, but all right, I'm just going to talk about that one, and then I'm going to talk about the longest one. So what happened with this one, I've done bike trail runs before, but there was one time when I ran like so far, it was like maybe I was 5 miles in, I don't know, and then I had to use the bathroom, and I had to go really bad. I was like, oh man, I have to use it. And it wasn't just like number 1 where I could just go by a tree or whatever. It was like I really had to go, like, poop out some diarrhea or okay. I don't know. I didn't really want to go in the forest, just in case somebody like sees me pull my entire shorts down. So it's like, okay, I passed this one part of the trail where there were restrooms and things. It was at this park. So I'm just going to go back there. And that was about like 3 miles back. So I had to run back, having used the bathroom, to this park where there were restrooms. So I went back there. They were doing construction on the roof. And I couldn't go because they were doing construction on it. And it was stupid. And so I had to go back 2 more miles to like a YMCA and use their bathroom. But my longest run was not in my hometown, but like a town next to my hometown where there were like a bunch of parks and things. So, and the neighborhoods weren't that big, so there were a lot of sidewalks and a lot of parks, so it was really good for running. And I went around there, but it was like 33 degrees, I think. So I had like jacket and pants and stuff. But when I started, my hands were frozen. I figured if I'm going to have my music in, I shouldn't bring gloves. No, I should have brought gloves. And so I actually had to call my dad. And he's so good for doing this. very supportive. Thank you, Dad, if you're listening to this. So I called him if he could bring me some gloves, and he brought me some gloves and then drove back. That was so nice of him. And I went 18 miles, so it was a good run. But the most insane story, which is probably, I would say, the most like heart-pounding moment in my life so far, is the time when I got chased by this huge dog. So I was doing one of those runs, which I call a non-stop run, where I just keep going, I don't stop, and I did that for about 1.25 of a mile around my neighborhood, and then I got to this one church, which is right by the cemetery, and basically I cut through like this little wooded area from the church to the cemetery to get there. I was running through that area, started to get into the cemetery, and I felt like somebody was watching me from behind. I was like, is there somebody watching me? And I looked behind me, and there was this huge brown dog chasing me, like growling too, maybe. I don't know if it was a stray. I actually have seen him around before, not in that area, but like around town, so he's been around. And yeah, oh man, he was hostile. He was catching up to me. I had already ran a great deal up to that point, and my flight response kicked in. Adrenaline pumping, just boom, full speed, went to the cemetery. So much energy that was in me that I didn't know was in me that I could put to running was put in that moment, and I just like full on sprint more than I've ever done before to the cemetery. I was already tired, but I didn't care. I was going. And yeah, the dog stopped after a while because I got to the cemetery. Maybe like he didn't want to go to the cemetery or something. I don't know. I don't really know why he didn't. Maybe it's because I yelled. I was like, ah! If you stay till this point in the podcast, you're awesome. I was like, ah, there's a dog chasing me. I mean, you would if you were there too, probably, unless you fought the dog, which I would not want to fight a dog because like I'm more of a cat person, but like who would want to fight a dog? I mean, they're like, yeah, you know what I mean. But yeah, so I made it to the cemetery, and that spot, like that whole experience kind of made me a little more paranoid with running. I look over my shoulder more, not necessarily for people. I do check for people and cars, suspicious cars and people, but for a while it was mostly dogs. I was like, if there's another dog that chases me. There actually was one, but it was like this fluffy white dog, and it was big, but I felt like if this thing was going to attack me, it wasn't going to do much. This other dog that chased me to the cemetery, yeah, that would cause some damage. So it was good that I didn't stick around because I was already running, and if I stopped and this ginormous dog pounced on me, it would not be good. So I think I reacted. I'm gonna say I reacted appropriately. But if you just saw this and it like went viral or something, it would be hilarious to see. It sounds hilarious. It was really scary at the time because you just see like I was 17. You see a 17-year-old teenager just like full on sprinting from this dog, going like ah. Oh man, that was great. But I faced my fear eventually. I went back there and I ran through those woods again because I figured, hey, if he was a stray, he didn't have a collar on, so I figured he was a stray and he wouldn't go back to that point, and he didn't. I've been there a few times since and haven't encountered him again, so I don't know what happened, but yeah, so thanks for tuning in to the very first episode of SPICast. If you enjoyed, please like this video. Or like the podcast. Thanks for listening. I should have said that at the beginning. And please stick around and subscribe. I guess I'm going to do like a question box on Instagram within the next week or so. I don't know how often I'm going to do this series, but submit your questions on Instagram. My Instagram is spi.studios. So submit your questions before each one of these episodes. See ya, everyone.